Hi, I did a project on solar energy. Solar energy is, this particular assessment is an achievement test. It's the culminating test of a unit on solar energy. It's both performance-based and knowledge-based. It's a summative assessment, it's objective, it's criterion referenced, and it's formal. The objectives of this project is for students to apply what they learned from the unit on solar energy. In particular, we'll be looking at three things. Students will be able to correctly size their solar system by determining the amount of solar panels and batteries needed to supply sufficient power for their home energy needs. 2, the students will be able to correctly wire the appliances and solar panels and connect them to the battery bank. And finally, students should be able to demonstrate their knowledge of inverters and converters by attaching the wires correctly and placing them in the proper order in relation to the battery bank. The context of this presentation project is that it takes place in a regular science class at the high school level with ELL students in the class. And as I mentioned before, it's summative and includes everything we've done on solar energy until now. There are numerous activities for vocabulary. I've created some online vocabulary activities. I do provide a website for that later. A task-based group project. They're in small group settings. The multimeter you see on the right side of your screen, they've learned to use those, and that's how they're going to determine the wattage of appliances that don't have enough information on them to determine wattage. It's going to involve an oral presentation and also a peer evaluation. The ESOL accommodations, I will give those in more detail as we talk about the different areas of reading and writing, listening, and speaking. But in general, students are going to be in groups of 4 with just one ELL student per group. Since everyone has to participate, work cooperatively as part of the grade, it's in everyone's best interest to support the ELL. The ELL, in turn, has an opportunity to learn from the others. And they'll also get additional assistance as necessary from the teacher. Here's the procedure. Part 1, the students will read an article on determining their electricity needs and then determine the wattage of 5 household appliances. Part 2, the students will build a solar cabin model together with appliances and corresponding wattages indicated, solar panel array, a battery bank in either series or parallel fashion, a converter and an inverter, and everything should be properly wired. And the final part is the oral presentation. They'll present their project to the class, justifying their solar setup, making sure there's enough panels and batteries to power their appliances. Here's a couple of things that show the wiring that takes place, and the students will have already studied this part. They're just putting their knowledge into practice. Okay, in terms of reliability, overall it's reliable because of the rubric and student reliability. They're not evaluated on one day's performance. It's just something they're working on for a couple weeks. Validity, it's valid because the students are tested on the application of everything they've done in the unit on solar energy. It's practical, it can be done during class time, and the cost is reasonable because they're just projects taken together, cardboard boxes and such. And then I would make materials for them also to represent appliances and give them red and black wire for wiring. In terms of authenticity, this is definitely an authentic assessment because it's meaningful, relevant. They're miniature models of real-world materials, and that simulates a real-world task. In terms of washback, there's a lot of beneficial washback. Both academic and social. Students benefit from group work, and there's peer tutoring, oral presentation. This is not a language-based project. This is based on their knowledge, so they have a chance to succeed. Here's some reading activities. They start by reading an article and a worksheet. And this is a very practical thing, and I assume some of the students' parents will have some experience in the trades, and they may get a chance to excel at this since it's not language based. You can see a website below if you want to check out a sample online vocabulary activity I created. Listening activity, besides the movies they watched before we got to this point, they will have to listen to all the oral presentations given in class and evaluate them, in addition to getting plenty of practice conversing with the group members while the project is forming. And also the teacher will also meet with the ESOL students, and they can make sure that they understand what's going on. Speaking activities, obviously the oral presentation. They get plenty of it talking with their group, but I just want to point out here that they're not going to be evaluated on their pronunciation, only on their knowledge. And it is, since everyone's grade depends on everyone's participation in the group, they got to make sure they do a good job. The ELLs will get additional help. They're going to have to turn in a written copy of their presentation, and the teacher can make corrections and help them with pronunciation. In terms of writing, they have a couple of different activities. One of the interesting ones is that they will evaluate their peers with the same rubric the teacher's using. And they also have to write a couple of paragraphs, which I'll talk about under Rubric Part 2. When the group's finished, each student must hand in a diagram of the home's wiring. And this time they're doing it individually, not as a group. So they're going to be evaluated with a rubric. I may not keep that point system. I'm still kind of considering that. However, this is a general rubric for a project-based group work. And then the second, and it's kind of general, they can evaluate them 1 through 4. And then more specific on Part 2, they have to write a couple of paragraphs for each group presentation on what they liked best about the presentation and what they'd improve on. And they must also evaluate the groups based on the following 3 objectives mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, worth 2 points each, for a total of 10 points. And let's see, and that's it. And there's the bibliography. I got a lot of great material from the National Energy Education Development Project. And I chose a wattage worksheet from Home Depot because that's something everyone can see. And they actually sell that in the tool rental place. And they're trying to have people get a feel for what the wattage they need is because they're going to buy a generator. So it's not for the same purpose as us, but it's kind of interesting. And then because I'm an RVer, I already had the RVer's Guide to Solar Battery Charging and have done a few solar systems myself, very simple. But any case, and then another thing I got was it was from a town, city of Cape Town, South Africa. It was just general, reading for consumers who were considering getting solar. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed it.